Hello and welcome to Microsoft Ignite. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Matt Smith. I am the Chief Data Officer for the West Enterprise Unit at Microsoft. I'm a white male wearing a blue polo sitting in my home office in the state of Arizona. Today joining me is Lou Leonetti, the Vice President of Interconnected Retail Technology at Estée Lauder Companies. And the topic for today is Data is the New Air. How customers use data and apps to drive innovation. So what do we mean by data is the new air? If you watch today's Ignite keynote, there was a lot of focus around terms like metaverse, hyper-connected businesses. And so what we're seeing is a shift with enterprises and organizations where through technology, we can converge digital and physical space to benefit not only companies and how they operate, but also provide customers a superior experience through insights, preferences, and feedback that is materialized through data. This data is unified, curated through modern AI processes, and ultimately exposed through applications or signals to frontline workers and even directly to customers. So think about like an offer. The response to these signals and actions becomes a feedback loop that can then help further refine experiences, recommendations, and preferences. So this is what we like to define as a digital feedback loop. So let's dig into our topic today. Before we do so, a couple of housekeeping points. We already have the event code of conduct posted in the Q&A section on the right side of your Teams window. Please use the chat to solicit any questions you may have, and our moderating panel will triage those questions. And again, create space for others to contribute and actively collaborate, and thank you for that. So as we dig in, Lou, as I mentioned, is joining us today. So Lou, why don't you go ahead and give us a brief introduction and overview of Estée Lauder Companies and MAC as a brand, as well as the charter of the organization.
Sure. So Estée Lauder Companies is a global leader in prestige beauty. We delight our customers with transformative products and experiences, and we inspire them to express their individual beauty. MAC is one of our many brands in the portfolio, and our mission at Estée Lauder Companies is to bring the best to everyone we touch. We are a very high touch company. We have a passionate attention to detail, and we have respect for every individual that connects us to our consumers and to each other. Being a high touch company creates a substantial relationship with the consumer and a personal connection in our fast-moving and increasingly virtual world. Our brands put the consumer first, and we spend a lot of time with our consumers when they come into our stores. We can spend anywhere up to 20-25 minutes with the consumer in a consultation. In this project, we wanted to bring that person-to-person experience into the digital world and re-envision how we retail.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I, to me, it's such a visible brand. Anytime you walk into a department store, you immediately know, what section is MAC. And my wife would like me to mention that she's a big fan of the brand. So there you have it. Tell us a little bit about your role at ELC and what you're focused on.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the Vice President of Interconnected Retail Technologies at ELC, like you said. My team's responsible for all retail technology that supports our brands globally. It includes solution architecture, development, networks, mobile device management, digital signage, retail technology support, and our consumer data platforms.
So that's a bit of a domain. Not just a few things on your plate, and I imagine a few things changing in your world, changing in your business's conditions and world. So maybe talk to us about those business conditions, the necessity of having to digitally transform, and what segments and markets that you're really looking to catalyze or capitalize on as a result of that.
Sure. Let me talk a little bit about MAC. They've always been a pioneer and a market leader in beauty and artistry. And when we met with them, what we decided we wanted to do is create a new experience for our consumers that would not just change the way the consumer interacted with the brand, but would change the way they tried on makeup and they purchased makeup for the foreseeable future. So they were looking to build out an experience that would drive the future of beauty retail. while providing the consumers the best service that they have come to know and expect and love from the brand. And we also wanted to attract new consumers to the brand that maybe haven't entered a Mac store or are comfortable with our traditional consultation processes. If somebody was more of an introvert, they may not want to go up to a Mac artist and ask them for help. I know whenever I bought cosmetics for my wife, I didn't, because being an IT guy, I am an introvert. So we wanted to kind of build something that would allow us to make the service we give today to our consumers better, but also draw in new consumers. And then naturally, we wanted to look towards making the consumer experience more digital without losing that high touch approach, because that's such a big part of our business. So we built a series of apps that have different stations around the store where the consumer can go up to it and try on new makeups or looks. So a look is a combination of makeup. So it might be eyeshadow, blush, foundation, lipstick, all in one, put together by a beauty artist who's an expert in that. And you can try all that on at once, or we just have stations for lips, eyes, and blush and those things. So you can go to a more focused approach. But we wanted to be interactive. We wanted to be personalized. And in doing that, it was basically going to be a consumer-facing app in our stores that the consumers would use. But we found some interesting, cool benefits that we didn't plan on amongst the other benefits that we had planned on. One of them was that when we onboarded new employees to the store, they were able to leverage the apps as an assisted selling app. So the beauty advisors could work with a consumer, walk them through the app one-on-one, half selling the traditional way, half selling the new way, showing the makeup online. And that was a big feature, because now that new employee becomes an expert in one day. And as they learn the products, it helps them learn it. And we had a situation where I was in the store, somebody had just tried on a traditional blue eyeshadow physically on their face. And then they said, you know what, I really love the yellow in that look for the eyeshadow, but I'm intimidated to try it on. And so they walked her over to the app, and right there, they were able to put the yellow eyeshadow on her. And so on the app screen, she had the yellow eyeshadow, and there's a little slider on the app, so you can slide it back and forth, and that makes half the screen the virtual world and half the screen the physical world. So she could actually see what the blue eyeshadow that was physically on her face looked like and what the new yellow eyeshadow looked like. So that was kind of cool. We didn't really expect that to happen, but it was an added benefit. Some of the other things, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's great. So what I'm hearing, new segments, maybe a higher level of comfort for new customers or prospective customers, if they're not comfortable in sitting down in a consult, and also maybe standardizing the onboarding process. And I know we're all experiencing somewhat of that great reset right now, where individuals are taking a pause to look at, do I seek alternative, an alternative career? And so you're probably getting, maybe folks that are not as traditionally akin to the Mac brand, right? And so they are talented beauticians, but that maybe they don't understand the palettes or the process and experience that you go through. So it's kind of like serving both sides of the puzzle, right? Is what I'm hearing.
Yep, it's absolutely great. It gives them a leg up, and makes everybody happy along the way, the consumer and the beauty artist. And that's what, when we look to do things, that's what we want. We want our consumers happy, and we want our employees happy. One of the other was because that we used App Insights as part of the app, we got a lot of visibility into the proximity and regional demographics of how the system was being used, which is really cool. So the Looks app, when you put the feature on your face, it's you can then dial up the looks to make it more bold, or dial it down to make it less bold. And when we looked at the data on the back end using App Insights, we could see that certain regions always dialed it down. As a matter of fact, the UK always dials it down. And so now we're looking at building into a feature that automatically knows, because we know what store the app is in and where it's being used, and we have the historical data of what happens in those regions. So maybe instead of always starting with the set point that we did initially, we'll dial it down automatically for the UK to reduce some of that friction, so the consumer hits where they want 90% of the time. They can still dial it up if they want something more bold. But we're looking to do those kind of things and using App Insights to feed those insights to make the app better and smoother to use.
So proximity, localization, maybe season of year, all those things are kind of that data feeding into what would be recommended as kind of a first stop to recommend to customers.
Yeah, yeah, and then we've seen down the road even events that happen locally in a community, and I always tell this one. There was a Rihanna came into Brooklyn, and she had a concert, and we sold out of these products that she had recently promoted, as saying these were her favorite products. And so knowing that what the schedule is, who's coming into these major metropolitan areas, and we had something similar with La Mer when a celebrity said how much they love La Mer. Knowing that they're going to be visiting and it's going to increase it, we can affect what the store has to sell, and we'll be better prepared for that. So those are really cool things that we're looking forward, to leveraging with this app and doing.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I think as we talk about hyper-connected businesses, so we look at a consumer-facing app that's benefiting employees. But now what I'm hearing is the data that's being generated from that is also informing logistics, supply chain, manufacturing, how much inventory a store might carry based on regional preferences or season. So it's really kind of streamlining or bringing intelligence almost from front house all the way to the back of the house. That
is, and it's really cool, right? Because we'll manage the inventory better. We'll be able to do better planning. The other cool part is that we're able to do better personalization, right? So, the app has a lot of cool personalization features in it. Some of them are physical in that a makeup palette is a palette with 4 different shades of eyeshadow that you buy. And traditionally, we pick the eyeshadows that go in those palettes, and then you buy those 4 eyeshadows. For this, now we let you, through one of the apps that you can put on your phone, pick which shades you want, right? And so you're no longer tied to the 4 we pick. You get the 4 that you want, right? So we're building the product kind of in store at the time. So that's a real cool customization, a little bit different than what we just talked about. But we also are helping them find the right shades. So we use some AI in the background when we're looking at their face to figure out, what colors they use, what colors their hair, their eyes, what's their skin tone. And then we serve up the right shades for them, helping them pick what the best shades are. We're not going to force them to buy it. Obviously, they can pick whatever shade they want. But, that personalizes the experience for them and gets them to the right products, so they'll be happier customers. We allow them to save the favorites as they go through the different stations, and then we email the favorites. And if they took any pictures of themselves with the virtual makeup on them, we can then send them to them after the fact. And then if they went through and they did 10 looks and they bought 4 products and they get home and go, God, I really should have picked this up, with that email or with the app on their phone, they can then click on that product and then go buy it from online and have it shipped to home. So that's a cool personalization we're doing.
So more flexibility, almost like I'll call it a virtual caboodles makeup box like my daughter has, where she keeps colors in there. It's almost like a virtual version of that where everybody has their own, right? And maybe those inferences now to help you determine which do you package those colors together, right? Are you seeing enough demand there, right?
Do we see trends and stuff like that? Yeah, it's really cool marketing data that we get out of this. We can also personalize lipstick cases and the makeup palettes, so you can put your any kind of picture you want on any quote, emojis, and those things, and so we do that. So we have a lot of personalization things going on there, and as you walk through the app, we do keep track of you anonymously, and so we can kind of serve up better recommendations knowing what you did in station 1 as you get to station 2 and station 3. So a lot of cool stuff going on, and it's all data in the background feeding it.
Very cool. Yeah, so I imagine that not only, I think you mentioned 20 minutes to get a consult historically. I'm envisioning almost like an Instagram lens that is kind of overlaying the shades through the phone or through the mobile app, and so I have to imagine there's probably some productivity benefits as well, right? In terms of
it's huge, right? If we're, if you think, if we go really with a bold makeup experience, that's 20 minutes, right? We can do 15 different looks in under 5 minutes with this app, and so our consumers get to try on a lot of different types of makeup and figure out what they really love. And when they leave the store, they have the stuff that they know is going to look great on them. They leave happy. And if they're happy, then we're really happy too. So they just get a big breadth of everything that we have and what's going to make them, the most beautiful in their eyes.
So talk to me about the new normal, right? There's kind of been this slowdown. There's been, reopening. There's kind of this new normal from the pandemic. And so any kind of serendipitous benefits about maybe a touch-free experience that has been realized as well?
We were very lucky, and and to tell you, we started this just before the pandemic hit, right? And we closed all our stores globally, and then when we opened them back up, we faced a world where it's a touch-free experience. There's no, and really, if you're that person to person and you're applying makeup on the face, that's a different way of selling than you've done ever. And having this app in the store and having all the different ways to do it allowed us to open back up. We didn't have to touch the consumer. They can try on all the products, and we could still sell cosmetics the way we did. And we were the pandemic was unfortunate, but we were very fortunate at the timing that the app got completed and it rolled out, because we were able to still service our customer the way they like to be serviced, and keep them safe at the same time. So it was really nice. And going forward, that's the new normal, as you said. So it's when people are not comfortable with the traditional approach, because the traditional approach is very safe, and we have a lot of safety procedures in place to make sure it's still safe. But if someone is just not comfortable with it, we can give them the same level of service via the app.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. It's just, kind of having the forethought of already looking to digitally transform. And we've seen many companies kind of thrust it into that transformation mode just for survival purposes. And so the fact that you kind of were already underway with the efforts is phenomenal. So kudos to your team on that one. Maybe pivoting topics a little bit here. Obviously we're at Microsoft Ignite. It sounds like you've used the Azure platform to host the application. So maybe talk to us a little bit about the Azure platform, what kind of led to the choice of that? What are some of the benefits that you've seen? And then how did that process come into the overall lifespan or life cycle of the project itself?
Sure. So we basically had 4 months to go from paper to a complete platform. There was no shift in that timeline when we started. So we needed something that would allow us to move really fast, be agile and innovative. And if I did that in my own data center, I would never have gotten the infrastructure spun up and in place and running smoothly in 4 months. It just wouldn't have happened. So we knew that Azure would allow us to do that, right? So that was pretty obvious to us. We're a longtime partner with Microsoft. Some of the guys, Mike Pasco, has been with us for 10 years, and he's an expert in his team, and you guys have a lot of experts that we could leverage as we moved through this quick process and building this out. So we were confident that this stack could deliver for us, and that you guys could support us longer term. So that's how we got here. We had a ton of conversations up front about how we were going to do it, but this really gave us the best chance to succeed, and so we were excited to move forward with it and do that with everybody's support. And then the other thing is that this was generation 1, and we knew there was going to be a lot of generations of this. So we knew that Microsoft and the Azure platform was going to have the tools we need in the future, and we could easily add them. It also knew that the stuff that we were using, we could easily scale up and scale down. So we used Cosmos, AKS, ADF. We used Azure MySQL and Azure Databricks, and they've proven really reliable for us. They're incredibly fast for us to develop on, which was key. And then they've just been really simple to support going forward. So that's all great stuff, because then my team can focus on making the app even better and better and better, because we're not having to focus on those things.
So time to market, existing relationships and partnership there. So trusted relationships that you could rely on for guidance and support and acceleration. So I'm hearing integration of the platform helped again for that time to market. So kind of showing a high level architecture that you were gracious enough to let us use today. Couple notable things that point out to me is one thing that's foundational to Microsoft as a company is hybrid, right? So I'm seeing a hybrid cloud on-premises or edge scenario where you're hosting applications, kiosks. I see a QR code, so I'm going to come back to that one in a second. and then really the application and all the analytics and telemetry and management hosted in the cloud, right? So maybe talk to us about how many stores does this support, and how did you look at like proximity to those stores and performance? And I know you talked a little bit about scalability there as well. Anything
Yes.
come to mind there? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So we're in 635 stores globally around the world. And we're continuing to roll out to more stores throughout this calendar and next calendar year. So we'll eventually be in all our stores globally. And the way it works is basically we have an iPad in the store that talks to our API gateway that communicates to the Kubernetes cluster. And then what happens is we use a lot of PaaS services, and that's where Cosmos lives. We have blob storage in there. We have our app service layer. We have our microsites living in Kubernetes, though. And then we have Drupal and MySQL. Now, I'm an IT guy, and as you can tell, I'm not young, right? So I hate giving up control, right? It's just not in my nature. I want everything under my thumb. But I have to say the PaaS service layer has been phenomenal for us, because it just frees us up to focus on what's important for my brands and my consumers, so we can build more into the app, because I'm not worrying about that PaaS service layer, right? Microsoft is worrying about that layer. They're updating those products in there. I'm not updating those products in there, so I don't get technical debt. We keep moving forward with all new things. I get new features, and my guys don't have to do that. We do testing, but that's about it. So that's been really phenomenal for us and a game changer. As far as an ETL layer, we get data from a lot of different sources inside of our company. That kind of runs through Data Factory and Azure Databricks, and then that feeds into our PaaS service layer that eventually feeds up the content that we see in the store. Incredibly reliable. I don't want to say this because I'll probably have a problem tonight, but we never have problems. It runs.
I'm not gonna wood for you.
Yeah, thanks. But it's been great. It doesn't go down, and very, very reliable. We're really happy with that. And again, App Insights, when we put it in there, we put it in there because we wanted to make sure the app was running right and it was good and all those things. And we got added benefits of knowing. Obviously, we knew we were going to figure out how people were using the apps, but we got the added benefits of making the app better by just looking at that data. And then also we pull out a lot of great marketing data out of that to share with our marketing, so we can change our campaigns and stuff based on usage. So we're pretty happy with not pretty happy, we're very happy with the whole thing there. At the store layer, it's an iOS device run in Swift and built in Swift. We use QR codes for a couple things. We use QR codes, since we have all these different stations as we move through the store. Basically, we asked them up front, do you want to keep track of your favorites, and do you want to, as you go through, and if they say yes, what we do is we give them a QR code that gets transferred to their phone. And then as they move from iPad to iPad to iPad, they just scan the QR code. So we know that Luli and Eddie was on station 1, he moved to station 3. At station 1, he looked at this. And so that helps us know who the consumer is, so we don't give him repetitive information. And we also know, what the best products are to show him at that point in time, because, we know what he did on station 1. And then if he goes from 3 to 2, we have more information. Then as we get all the way through, and we always ask them are you done? And they say yes. Go, would you like us to send us, your experience in the store? And if they say yes, we'll email them their favorites. We'll email them any pictures they took as they had the makeup on them, so they have that as a frame of reference. And, it's just a great way to communicate with them and keep them engaged. And then, if they, like I said before, if they leave the store and decide they want to buy something, they have all the information right then and there. They have the ability to click on something and then go to a YouTube video to see how to apply the makeup. So it's a great experience. And, if you think about traditionally, you did all that stuff with a makeup artist, but then when you went home, if you had a question, you called the store, and we always answered it, and we helped them. But this is now at their hands, so it's a little bit easier. We also use QR codes for to get to our microsites. So one of our microsites is where we customize the products to put your picture on it, or your lipstick or your quote on your lipstick or your quote. So they scan the QR code, that brings up a microsite. We use a company called Artify, and they help us, do the graphic design for how it's going to fit on the lipstick. So we make sure it looks good before we print it. When it's all good, that gets sent down to a print server, and then the print server in the store will then print it using a UV printer in the store, so that when they go to pay, they have the printer they have their products that were customized. So yeah, the QR code. That's the other thing the pandemic did is QR codes are so accepted now in the U.S. It's incredible. Where before that we would have a hard time getting people to scan them, but not anymore. And so we're leveraging that.
Yeah. I mean, it really is the linchpin to connect physical and digital, right? And I think we're seeing this across industries and kind of the universal nature, allowing it to, what I'm hearing is facilitate workflow, enable customers to capture the data about themselves in the process that the workflow that they're flowing through. That's phenomenal. So, Lou, you'd mentioned that you've been around for a little while. You've obviously got some technical background. You're in IT. So I know while you probably are capable of hand coding this yourself, I would say 4 months is probably a stretch for your capabilities. So maybe talk to us a little bit about how you built this, who you engaged, who did you kind of leverage in that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't write good code anymore. I can tell you that. I know how to make other guys write good code, but I can't write it. Well, I can still write it, but. Anyway, so our internal cloud team and our internal SRE team were phenomenal and fantastic, and they were side by side with Microsoft. Valtech's the team that took this from idea to product, right? So they did all the designs up front, like the creative designs with the Mac team. Then they worked with us on the system architecture, and then they built out the first version of the platform, and they just did a phenomenal job. Very creative. Guys, but technically strong too. Sometimes you don't get both, but these guys are just great that way, and they're just phenomenal partners. And then we use EPAM. Their EPAM covers support for us, and they're carrying it forward with a lot of great new cool features for us. So I was very blessed with a lot of great partners to make this a success. I'm so proud of all of them, and they did it all during a pandemic when we didn't know how to work from home too well.
Yeah, so I'm hearing hybrid working conditions. You've got remote, and everybody kind of working from their houses for the most part. You've got partnership, your own internal teams. You're leveraging the Microsoft account teams and SMEs there, and then using our partner ecosystem, which for those that work with Microsoft, that's core to success for us, is scaling our capabilities through our partners. So Valtech and EPAM, both highly regarded partners. So it's awesome that the recipe came together. Lots of success there. So that's phenomenal. So what's next for you in Mac? Maybe talk to us about what's going forward.
Yeah, so not just Mac, but for the whole company. This is now expanding to a retail experience platform, so all our brands can use similar technologies. We have curated playlists already built, and we're using that in our travel retail division, where the store manager can pick what the content is on the display, because it gives us an ability to localize what's running on those playlists. We have microsites, so you can get more information about products, which is really cool. Connected packaging we're playing with, so that as you go home and you scan the package, you scan the barcode on the package, we can teach you how to use the product again, or we can give you a list of ingredients, because that's really important now. And then down the road, we're going to be linking it into our omni journeys. So right now, we're linking it into loyalty, so we know who you are, if you concede to let us know who you are, and then we know how many points you have, what services you can get for free. Is it your birthday? We'll get you a free lipstick, but you'll be able to do that all from the platform. And then our omni journeys are, if you're in the store and you see 10 things that you want, but you're only buying 2, but you don't want to carry everything else, we'll let you buy online and pick up in store. That's our future vision. And then the other thing we're working on is we want you to be able to say, I favorited this, but I definitely want to buy this, so that when you get to the front counter, it's all there waiting for you. You don't have to carry the next round. So those are some of the cool things we're working on next year.
Wow. So I'm hearing tons of value, a lot to already be satisfied and happy about, but much grander visions in terms of digital transformation. Got a couple questions from the audience here as we're kind of wrapping up the session.
Sure.
Does ELC use any robotics for in-store scenarios? Applying makeup for a VTO session could be interesting.
So we don't use any robotics for applying makeup. As you can imagine, putting something around someone's eyes, that robotics have to be perfect. Yeah. And I'm not saying we'll never do it, because I think we definitely will way down the road, right, when we know that. But we haven't done that yet, no.
Okay,
that's
cool.
A cool idea, though. Thanks.
It was interesting. Yeah, and I know RPA is another really hot topic as well. So another question around app insights, and what data are you collecting, and how is that being used to facilitate the processes?
Yeah, sure. So it's the typical things you would think about the app, about how the flows go through the app. We're collecting what products they tried on, you know, how the order they tried the products on, what products that they tried on that they might have favorited, and those kind of things. We're also keeping track of the features, so which features are used most frequently in certain areas by physical location. And it's interesting because, like, if you have a store in Soho, New York, it's very different than the store we might have uptown in Harlem, right? And so getting that level of hyper localization of what's being played with in the store is really valuable to us. And I think as we get a larger sample set over the couple of years, we'll be able to kind of help do things there. So we don't collect any personal data, though. It's just so I don't know that Luli and Eddie tried this on at this point yet. But those are the type of things we're keeping track of. Who's using the products, how they're using the products, and why.
Very cool. So it sounds like a key catalyst for telemetry about your business and operations and what's taking place, as well as how the app is performing, what features of the app are being generated. So I think about, like, all the data that's being created is also being consumed by the application and other business processes. So I think, first of all, phenomenal job. Congratulations on this. This is an incredible example of a digital feedback loop and digital transformation at its best. So Lou, I really appreciate you spending time with us today. And I think we're right about at time. Any final thoughts for the audience before we let them go?
No, I'm just, thank you all for coming. I'm amazed that so many people showed up, but thank you. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You find me on LinkedIn. And I'd love to continue the conversation. You know, if you want to get in contact with the people at Valtech or EPAM, you know, I'm more than happy to put you in contact with them. And I would say definitely, listen, if you're not using your Microsoft team, we leverage them so much, and that is the key to our success, is their being willing to work with us and make us smarter, right? They make sure we don't paint ourselves into a corner. So that's great.
That's phenomenal. Well, thank you everybody for joining Data is the New Air in our session today. Really appreciate you guys leaning in and asking questions, engaging us. It's been a phenomenal story. If you're looking to get a hold of Lou, as he mentioned, LinkedIn, same thing for myself. I appreciate everybody's attendance, and we'll leave you off to your next one. Have a great day.